What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today, we're going to be going over live NBA trade deadline news of Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. So if you do enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on who won this deal. So without further ado, let's get right on into this. So just dropped 7 minutes ago, the Golden State Warriors have agreed to trade Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick to the Miami Heat in exchange for six-time All-Star Jimmy Butler. Now, the protection as well as the year have not been released quite yet, as this just happened, but initial reaction. This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. The idea that you go and rent Jimmy Butler for a year, similar to how the Raptors rented Kawhi Leonard for a year. So now you have a lineup. You know, you don't have Andrew Wiggins, but let's look at their depth chart here. You have Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, you have Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and then Kevon Looney or Trace Jackson Davis or somebody like that. And who knows if they're not done yet. Maybe they'll go get Vucevic, pair Vucevic in there as well. It'll be tough to make that money match, but there's a possibility here of needing a center, but there's a lot of teams out there that do need a center. One center just came off the market today. That was Jonas Valanciunas. I'll get into that trade in just a minute here. But what I do want to touch on, I like this idea. Just as I touched on it yesterday, this is a deal that you're going win now mode. You're saying, hey, Steph Curry is over 30 years old. We're not going to have him too much longer. Jimmy Butler, also around the same timeline. Draymond Green, around the same timeline. Let's push for championship now. We don't really need... One, you didn't give up Kuminga in this deal, which is huge, right? Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, protected first-round pick, solid. I think that that's a pretty solid give back because that protection probably is like lottery protected down the road, maybe 2027, 2029-ish. And Andrew Wiggins was likely going to be in the deal anyways to make that money match. So overall, what this means for both teams. Let's talk about what this means for Miami. You get a relatively younger veteran-esque, fits the timeline of Bam and Tyler Hero in Andrew Wiggins. Dennis Schroeder will probably later be flipped or let walk in free agency, and same thing with Kyle Anderson. And then you get a protected pick on this. The idea that you actually got something decent in return for Jimmy Butler, yes, it's not the same as 4 first-round picks, like 5 first-round picks like Mikal Bridges, or even an all-star in return like Anthony Davis, or something of that caliber, or even like a Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo situation for Cat. But hey, you got Andrew Wiggins, who has proven in the right situation and scenario, he can be all-star caliber. Right? He can be part of a championship contending team. Dennis Schroeder, who, again, can be part of a championship contending team with his time on the Lakers, his part-time on the Hawks, everything like that. He's a good, solid point guard, and Tyler Hero could probably learn a thing or two from Dennis. And Kyle Anderson, who... he's going to provide some decent veteranship off the bench for you if he does continue to stay. I could see a possible buyout there from Kyle Anderson. Him just ended up walking somewhere else. But yeah, I'm not this isn't like some insane like A+ deal for the Heat. But the fact that Jimmy Butler, this disgruntled of a superstar, we've never really seen too much before. The fact that you got at least a pick back is pretty impressive, right? A first-round pick at that. I kind of figured maybe you'd get a couple seconds or, a heavy protected pick, which it probably is. It's probably going to be more like top 14 protected, will convey over to double, 2 second-round picks in the following year or something like that. But you got a first-round pick. The Warriors are probably going to be decently good, especially Jimmy Butler, Curry, and Draymond in these next few years or so. So... why you did this if you were the Golden State Warriors was you said you went all in on Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. How they fit together, I really like. I touched on it yesterday in the sense of Steph Curry can play without the ball. Jimmy Butler is more of a ball-dominant player, but he's somebody that can alleviate a lot of pressure off of Steph Curry. I think that the two of them are going to play very well together. Steph spreads the floor, allows Jimmy to just drive the lane and do his thing. And then when it comes to putting the team on their back, both of them can do it. So the nights that Curry's struggling, Jimmy Butler can do it, and vice versa. This is a kind of player that dragged a Miami Heat team that, yes, was decently talented, but let's be honest. As an 8 seed, they weren't super impressive. And he dragged them to the finals to the point that he was exhausted. And let's be honest, or let's also make one thing clear. It's not once, but twice he did this. He did it against the Lakers and he did it against the Nuggets. Yes, they lost both times. And I understand that, but he did it. He made it to the finals. He's proved. And Steph Curry won championships. Draymond won championships. Now, I don't think that you can be done with this roster. This can't be like to be able to compete for a championship before tomorrow, before the end of the day tomorrow. I think that you need to go get a center. Jonas Valanciunas just got traded to the Sacramento Kings, so he's off the board. Next up, guys like Steven Adams, who the Lakers are interested in, so you're going to probably need to up the bid a little bit. And then you might get outbid for that one, right? If he's not available, what's up with Robert Williams in Portland? What's up with Mitchell Robinson in New York? Like, there are centers out there. Vucevic, too. If you can make a deal for Vucevic. And who knows, maybe with Nico Harrison and his GMing right now, who knows what he's actually willing to give up and everything. You might go talk to him about a Daniel Gafford or even a PJ Washington and you run a little small ball there. I mean, you've done it before. Why not do it again? Alex Len might be an expendable center right now because you just went and got Jonas Valanciunas. Alex Len is a serviceable big. Is he superstar caliber? No, but he can provide some decent minutes off the bench and create less of a gap between him and the starting center. Right now, your starting center is Quentin Post and Kevon Looney or Trace Jackson Davis. That's a pretty rough group right there. So overall, I think that this is beneficial for both teams. I think that both teams made out. I think that also what I really like is I do believe that Jimmy Butler is going to re-sign with the Warriors. But even if he doesn't, if they go on a run, it was worth it. You gave up Dennis Schroeder, who was going to be a short-term rental anyways. Kyle Anderson, same thing. And yeah, you lost out on Andrew Wiggins, but you had to give up something to make that money match. And you weren't going to give up Kuminga, which is solid, that they did not give up Kuminga or Moody. So now tomorrow, before the deadline, you could possibly take Kuminga and go flip him into something else. Seems like that pick was pretty protected and all that, so you kept a lot more assets for your future. So you might be able to package Kuminga and, a Gary Payton and make something out of that. Go get something worth Nikola Vucevic. Like, I think that right now that is the ideal target for the Warriors, right? Or him or, like a Robert Williams. Robert Williams is a rim runner. Can you go get Miles Turner maybe? Miles Turner's been in trade talks for the last decade pretty much. So can you go put up the package to go get him? Something like that. So on both sides, I really like that. Now let's talk about Jonas Valanciunas. He obviously just got dealt. Jonas Valanciunas does go to the Sacramento Kings for Sidi Sissoko, who just landed there as he was traded from San Antonio to Sacramento and part of the De'Aaron Fox deal, and 2 second-round picks. Now, why you do this if you're Washington? The second-round picks, of course, you get to take a flyer on a player who the potential could be there, but realistically, you wanted to shed off that money, right? You wanted to get rid of that money, just like you just traded Kyle Kuzma, which I'll get into in just a second. Right, but Jonas Valanciunas finds a new home. You're off that money. That's the whole reason that you tried to trade for him or sign him in the first place, was to flip him for more assets. So even though they're second-round picks, you get those second-round picks, they're going to turn into something. Maybe you can find a diamond in the rough there. Maybe you can find a diamond in the rough in Sidi Sissoko, right? So I don't mind that. If you're the Kings, you added some center depth there. I still question the defense. Jonas Valanciunas is not a phenomenal defender, Domantas Sabonis, not a phenomenal defender. DeMar DeRozan, not a phenomenal defender. Zach LaVine, not a great defender. Malik Monk, not a great defender. There's not a whole lot of great defenders on this team. You got Keegan Murray, who's he's a good defender. And you got Keon Ellis, who's a great defender. Those are your two key points there. So maybe that's what they're banking on, is those two can kind of anchor the defense. I question this deal. Now, of course, you only gave up a guy who just came here that was kind of a throw-in in the last part of the deal of that Fox trade, and 2 second-round picks. So it's kind of worth the ideology of going and getting him. He's a big who can stretch the floor, which will help Sabonis in the post. And it also help DeMar DeRozan with the mid-range. Zach LaVine able to stretch the floor as well. Keegan Murray able to stretch the floor. Malik Monk able to stretch the floor. But I just am curious about their rotation now, because right now you think like Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. Do you do like Sabonis, Valanciunas, or do you bring Valanciunas off the bench and keep starting Sabonis? Something like that. Like they're probably going to play around with this lineup, and it's not going to be their final lineup. Like this isn't a championship contending team, but it's at least they're making a deal to finally like do something. I wish that they would have been able to accomplish this keeping Fox, but Fox wanted out because he had enough of this mediocrity. That's the issue with this trade, is how does this push you farther, right? How does this push you towards championship contention? Is Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Valanciunas, Sabonis your core that's going to keep you? Because, like, if I'm honest, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Sabonis, especially him not being named an all-star, isn't like, look, I got to go to a bigger market. Look at what it's going to do to Luka. Look at what it did to Jalen Brunson. Look at what it, like all these players that got, LeBron went to LA on purpose. He left the small media market of Cleveland and went to a bigger market for those movie opportunities, those commercial deals, the shoe deals, etc. So if you're Sabonis and you're like, look, I have been snubbed of an all-star 2 years in a row, right? I can't keep doing this. I got to go to a bigger market. I got to go take my talents to even like a Clippers, which is at least LA. Even like, you know, a Lakers, for example. Like, I'm not saying this deadline, but I'm saying in the future, right? A big market, Miami, Dallas, etc. Like one of those big market teams that can help him spread his name and how he plays and everything, spread his game all over the world. But Sabonis is kind of suffering there in Sacramento. The whole reason DeMar DeRozan even went to Sacramento was because of De'Aaron Fox. So does this mean a trickle effect there? So I'm kind of curious of that. But what I do think is they have a solid squad. I don't think it's championship contending. I think you got to see what's up with Devin Carter and how he develops and all that a little bit. But I also think it's time that they make a big, big, big move. Like, be the ones on the other end of De'Aaron Fox, receiving a guy like De'Aaron Fox. Maybe you go get a disgruntled star that's sitting out there. Like them getting a guy like Jimmy Butler would have been something that I would have been intrigued with, because at least I can't think of the last time they had a superstar other than Fox, and if you want to include Sabonis in that deal of superstar, right? But besides that, like you're talking Boogie, but even when he was in Sacramento, he was a little discredited for what he did, you know, stuff like that. All right, let's talk a little bit about I want to talk a little bit about the Bucks acquiring Kyle Kuzma. So Kyle Kuzma is officially a Buck, and that is huge in the sense of, oh wow, breaking news, Pelicans are trading center Daniel Tice to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll get on that in just a second. But what I will say is Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks gives another option for offensive and availability as well. Kyle Kuzma does play games, whereas Chris Middleton was a little injury prone. Right? You gave up Chris Middleton. I don't really see that as a huge whopping loss for the Bucks. Defensively, sure, but he wasn't available on the court to play a whole lot of the time. And you needed to get younger any which way you could. You couldn't really make too many moves, so it was kind of a one-for-one deal you had to make. So I don't know per se how the fit will work, right? But what you can say is let's compare it to his time on the Lakers. He had 2 ball dominant stars that he was playing with, and he was able to find success there as a third-ish option, third, fourth-ish option, whatever you want to call him at that time with the Lakers. He's going to have a similar role here with the Bucks. Dame and Giannis, ball dominant players, and then Kyle Kuzma, where does he fit? Now, my problem here is he's kind of a tweener in between the 3 and the 4 position. Small forward, power forward, where does he fit? With the Lakers, they had a lot of versatility where they could go Anthony Davis at the 5, if they didn't need a JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard off the bench, or even them starting, if they weren't going up against a Jokic or a Embiid. They could go rely on the fact Anthony Davis can play the 5. You run Kyle Kuzma at the 4, LeBron at the 3, and so on and so forth. With the Bucks, you can't really do that a whole lot. Giannis can not really play. I mean, he can play the 5, but like Brook Lopez, he's going to be your 5. Giannis is your 4. Kyle Kuzma is your 3, but is he going to be able to keep up with somebody like a DeMar DeRozan, for example? Small forward in Sacramento. A Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown, which he's going to have to guard. Somebody like that. Is he going to be able to defend at a high level Paul George, Jimmy Butler, etc.? That's what I'm getting at, is the defense is my question mark now. And they were already not a great defensive team with Damian Lillard. Yet you added to that problem. It's similar like I was just talking about with Sacramento. You lack defense, yet you added another player who's not a positive defender. That's just a huge question mark in my book. But I like his offensive game with the Bucks, how he could relate back to the time that he had in LA. And he can be that guy that can play that third, fourth option for the Bucks and possibly help them win a championship. Yes, it's a gauntlet in the East when you got to get through New York, you got to get through Boston, you got to get through Cleveland. And you're going to have to go through at least 2 of them. Now, there's possibility here where you could avoid a lot of that if you were the 1 seed, but you're not. So I think that this is a positive move for the Bucks. I think that they'll make it work and everything. Giannis and Brook Lopez defense is going to be pretty solid there, but I do question the defense guarding the small forward position, the 2 or the 3, whatever you want to call it, whoever, like somebody's going to be guarding Jason Tatum, somebody's going to be guarding Jaylen Brown. Giannis can guard one of them, sure, but he ain't guarding the other. A lot of the times, you're probably getting torched by one of them. The Knicks, you're going to have to guard Mikal Bridges. You're going to have to, Damian Lillard is probably not playing solid defense on Jalen Brunson. There's no solid defender there, lockdown defender there now, except for Brook Lopez locking down the paint. But when you're playing against the Celtics that space the floor 5 out, where Derek White can shoot a 3, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps all shoot 3s, Brook Lopez is going to get dragged out, and then that's going to open up the lane for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to drive. That's my point, and what I'm getting at is, but let's talk about the Wizards. They at least got Chris Middleton. He's going to be off his contract soon. You'll probably flip him soon. You got a second-round pick out of it, too. What I do also like is the Bucks did get Patrick Baldwin Jr. in this deal. That'll add some depth there at the 2-guard position for them. But last but not least, I do want to talk about this kind of breaking news right here. This New Orleans was, they shipped out Daniel Tice to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's scary because this, how do I describe this? So they already have Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, but now you add Daniel Tice, really locking down that center position just in case Chet does go down. You have depth now. Now, I'm not seeing what exactly they got in return. I'm assuming it's not a lot, but a team that was already lacking a center is now lacking a center again. New Orleans, though, this does put them below the luxury tax. That's the entire reason they did this trade. I do expect Brandon Ingram to be traded by the end of the day tomorrow, or by the deadline. I mean, I think it's the middle of the day. So Daniel Tice, I mean, you're just kind of adding water to the ocean at this point with the plethora of talent that is in Oklahoma City. I would have liked Daniel Tice to have gone to a team like Golden State or somewhere where he can play center and he can play valuable minutes, because I don't really see him when they're fully healthy. He's not going to be playing a ton of minutes. Now, yeah, he's more of a backup center anyways, but that's my issue, is he's not going to be playing a ton of minutes anyways, because during the playoffs, you're probably not going to start Isaiah Hartenstein. You'll start Chet, or maybe you'll do Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein, however they feel. But now you're looking down the depth chart. Chet, if he starts, Isaiah Hartenstein is a sixth man, and then, or the backup center, and then the third spot is Daniel Tice. It's a bit of a bummer. But, overall, I think that this is a solid deal for New Orleans, because it's not a successful season. You might as well stay under that luxury tax. And then in this offseason, you hopefully do something to make a move to be more successful. Maybe you get that number 1 overall pick and you pair Cooper Flagg with, if Zion or Brandon Ingram are still there. So, all right, guys, it's been another Heart Over Height episode. I do appreciate you guys watching these videos. It does mean a lot. I am back on the grind, so we're going to be posting daily updates with the NBA trade deadline, as well as after the trade deadline, doing some grades, etc. So if you do enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on your team, and whether or not the trades that I just discussed are successful or not. So without further ado, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.